it.
Winsome Williams. This is
Yeehaw!
this is our second. My luckiest self has been graced with your presence two times on this podcast, Meathead Hippie. The first time being all about regenerative farming and your beautiful farm, La Kahea in Maui. And this is just so beautiful because I think you, just like all of us, have so many different dimensions and sides to you and expressions, and you're such a healer. And you have been so passionate about this calendar. You used to print these calendars off, the Mayan calendar, this ancient way of tracking time, and you've brought it back and delivered anybody who wants it a beautiful follow along PDF that I'm so excited to follow. So this podcast is all dedicated about what is this and how do we follow it and what is the importance of it and all of the things that go along with it. So thank you so much for coming back and also for creating this calendar and for providing a new way of us to understand time. That's what I'm the most excited about.
Yay. Well, thanks for having me. And thanks for being my inspiration to share it on a bigger, broader scale. Yeah. So little history. My friend Naya and I in Maui, let's see, I think it was maybe like 5 or so years ago now. We kind of like went down this rabbit hole actually to like we were going to create a calendar just as a fundraiser for the farm. That was like the whole intention of it. And we're like, let's take some cool photos. We'll give this calendar, like raise awareness about what we're doing at the farm. And then we started going down the rabbit hole of like, what is time and what is the calendar and where does this Gregorian calendar come from that we're all following? And I would say that's like, that was our first little like detour from making a farm calendar. Was just realizing that like, whoa, this Gregorian calendar, the style of tracking time is really interesting. Like if you dive a little bit deeper and, start to like ask them questions, where it came from, why are we following it this way? Like it's really interesting. And so that was our inspiration to sort of create a new calendar. And we came up with this calendar called the 13 moon calendar. And essentially the inspiration came from the foundation of law of time. This gentleman, Jose Arguelles, he's sort of the mastermind behind really integrating like Mayan cycles of tracking time with modern day time tracking, right? And so yeah, that's sort of like the base of it. Naya and I, we created this calendar that essentially just allowed us to track. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Um, yeah, so this is the new calendar. The old one was slightly different, but essentially the idea, as you can see on this screen right here, is that if we look at a year, right, we have 13 harmonious 28-day cycles that we can track a year in. Now, if we think about our calendar today, the Gregorian calendar, it's split up in all the different months. There's 28 days, and then there's 31 days and 30 days, and it's very irregular, right? And this is a cool time to actually just throw in the fact of like the Gregorian calendar was put in place for the common man to pay his taxes, right? So it's actually under this like frequency of like time is money, and there's never enough time, and there's never enough money, right?
Mm.
And I think we can all like relate to that a little bit of this feeling of like hustle, hustle, go, go, like or like trying to do so much. Um, and so the idea behind this calendar is to just kind of create a new relationship with like what what is time to you and what do you want your relationship to time and space to look like. Um, yeah.
This
So
is
if you're
so
go
great.
ahead.
Well, I didn't know about, so I just pulled up on the screen, obviously, the calendar
Mhm.
that Winsome has created, the 13 moon calendar. And this is what we'll talk through so you guys can follow along as well. But really quick, can you just explain, Gregorian calendar? One, I didn't know that about the taxes. That's
Mm-mm.
really interesting. The other thing I didn't know until you told me this a while back was the origin of the months of July and August. Can you share
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So okay, so if you guys want to dive like way deeper than this podcast into this too, I would highly recommend checking out it's just like the law of time. And there's like all this history and information of like different like significant dates, and like, you know, they just do a really good job of mapping out this really big picture. But essentially, yeah, so Augustus and Julius Caesar wanted to have months in the calendar. Um, and Augustus got a little bit jealous of Julia, so he wanted to put his calendar in there. He wanted to have a month representing him in the calendar. So if you look at like the names like September, October, November, right? The meaning sept is actually 7, but it's the ninth month, right? Oct means 10, right? But it's our oct means 8, but it's the 10th month. So there's like all these funny things when you start to like look at this calendar that we all follow kind of religiously, right? We like map our whole lives around this. Um, and so there's all these like funny little things that you start to like become aware of this like of this calendar. And so yeah, does that kind of answer your question a little bit?
Yes, of course. No, it's great. And it makes sense too. I think I've talked about this a lot on the podcast before of just understanding, this New Year's resolution. I think some of us have the awareness that a New Year's resolution is the worst time to start a New Year's resolution because we're dead in winter, right? There's no
Mhm.
energy. So astrologically, we've been a little bit more familiar of Aries or Aries season kind of initiating the start of the wheel again. But
Mhm.
I absolutely love, I mean, astrology has such a place in my life, but I think I'm ready for my mind to expand, like there's an element of astrology that does become somewhat, if not careful, a little bit confining. You can, oh, you are a Taurus. Of course you're a Taurus, you're a farmer, like no, even not meaning to, we judge and we box, so I think I wanted something a little different other than just winter solstice, summer solstice, the equinoxes. All of these are really special places in time. But
Mhm.
then when you sent me this and then the integration, so I'm going to pull it up again.
Yeah.
I would love for you to talk through. So today, this is what I was so excited about. The reason our podcast filming worked today, because today is all about the solar plexus. So
Mhm.
every single day, if we look at the top of this, you've put the chakras that it is associated with. Will you share a little bit about how that spirals and what that means?
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to backtrack just a second because I wanted to touch briefly on just like the astrology component of this. And one thing that is very unique about this calendar is that the start date, right? So you can pull it back up there just for a sec, Em, if you wanted. And the start date is actually July 26th, which correlates to the rising of the star Sirius. And so it's also known as the dog star, right? I was learning, and so it comes up, and the Mayans had their own relationship with it. The Egyptians, a lot of people did, and it's one of a lot of cultures did rather. And it's the brightest star in the night sky. So with the rising of this star, this is when the Mayan calendar begins, right? And so that makes it very unique, obviously, from their traditional calendar.
And this is what blows me away, Winsome, because if you've known me for a long time, or if you have followed me, I celebrate August 8th like it's my birthday. And the reason August 8th is the Lionsgate portal is because of the sun, of the star Sirius rising like the sun
Yeah.
into. So it just makes so much sense of like, I have to be following this. I can't even question this. It's amazing. So you'll see it says 7/26 is the
Yep.
first day. So technically last Friday, but we can jump into
Yeah.
this at any
You can
point.
kind of into any point, yeah. And
Mhm.
like, so if you look at other like, the foundation of law of time, right? They have every month, right? Every 28-day cycle has a different tone and a different energy. So they have this thing known as a wave spell that you can actually like map out a manifestation throughout the year, and every 28-day cycle again has this like different energy. So Naya and I in our last calendar really played around with that. I didn't really bring it into this year, but you can definitely do that. So look up wave spells if you're interested. Those are really fun to like play around with a little bit deeper. Um,
Will you explain
but
a little bit more like what you mean by that?
yeah, so here, let me see just so I give the right info here. So um, here we go. Let's see.
Like, what did you mean when you put it in the last calendar? Just so I can
Oh yeah.
understand fully.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like, so there was like kind of a map of how you would map out like a goal throughout your year. So you would have like your intention and the purpose. And as every 28-day cycle progressed, you could kind of build upon this.
Cool.
Right, so it's another layer in it. This year, more of my focus was like how to have a deeper connection to like the seasons and the chakras. And so again, like until me and you really dove in together, I was like, this was more of like a personal journey for me. And then you're like, let's share. I was like, you know what? Okay, let's share it a little bit bigger.
Mhm.
Um, and so yeah, you can think about the year in like, these 28-day harmonious cycles that you can like map out what you want to bring forth for this year, right? Like for me, the intention is like connecting deeper and stronger to the seasons and connecting deeper and stronger to the rhythms and the energy within my own body as they relate to the chakras. So we'll get back into your original question here too in just a second. Um, but this year, kind of instead of what I wanted to focus on is like, okay, so the start of the calendar is the 26th, right? Which it actually begins on a Friday this year. So your actual calendar date, your this month cycle, right? Maybe you can pull up that other calendar of just like this month, right? This month. Um, so what this represents, the colors in here represent the actual seasons as they relate to Chinese medicine. And so the yellow, there we go, perfect. Right now we are in this transition season from summer to autumn. And the color yellow on the calendar actually represents the element earth. And so the earth element is really like the element that we lean on during these times of transition, right? So we can talk more about this like maybe at a later time, but you can see sort of that's where we're in. We're transitioning from summer into autumn, right? We got the start of autumn coming up. And what I always find really fascinating, and I guess my curiosity this year is like, how do I be more thoughtful and more like on the front end of supporting my body and the organs of my body as it relates to Chinese medicine? And I'm really blessed in Maui to like have some really great friends that are great acupuncturists. And I feel like anytime I have an ailment or an illness or anything come up, I go in there and I have this amazing session and they're like, oh, you should definitely be supporting the kidneys right now because it's this season. And like, here's all these recipes, here's all these herbs. And I'm like, oh man, like I didn't know to be supporting this during this time of transition. Right. And so that was sort of like, oh man. And then something comes up and then we're already at the end of the season. And now it's like this, like, how do I get back to support them, right? When then we're already transitioning to the next season. So for me, it was kind of like, how can I be more thoughtful on the front end, right? And like really like make some good recipes and like get some supportive herbs and like dive deeper into our body's connection to the seasons. So that's sort of like how the colors are set up. If
Yeah,
that, if
it makes
right.
so much sense. And I'll just
Okay.
share. So if we zoom out, so I'll be the
Yeah,
big picture here.
perfect. Okay.
And if you zoom out, you'll see, and this is what I'm the most excited about too, is because I feel like I'm so in the element of earth, air, water, fire, earth,
Yeah.
air, water, fire. But when we look at the Chinese medicine, we're looking at metal and wood. So these are
Yeah.
two very different energies that are
Mhm.
obviously incredibly important in the existence of everything and
Mhm.
nature and our cycles. So every time we have a season, it's a color. So our official season of autumn begins August 8th, which is
Yeah.
amazing. So that's
Yeah.
another important date, and that's all about metal. And then we see, if you look on the calendar, it's all yellow, so that's the earth transitioning into the next big season, which is the start of winter, which is water. Then we have another earth. So earth are these anchor points, which I
Mhm.
love. So currently right now we're in an earth transition as we
Yeah.
move into the start of autumn on August 8th, which will be metal, which is a element I'm so unfamiliar with, and I'm so
Me too.
excited to get
Me
to.
too.
Wow. That's gonna be, and I love this
Yeah.
too, because it is all about lung and large intestine.
Mhm.
And I think I was just listening to a Channy podcast about the Virgo. Virgo rules digestion, and we're having a Mercury retrograde in Virgo. So digestion has come up so much for everyone I know, including my horses that I'm working with, like it's they're so gassy. I'm
They're
like,
all
what is happening? Like, humans are gassy, horses are gassy. What is going on? And it is like collectively, my big focus with supplements right now is how do we help, you know,
Yeah.
digestion,
Track.
but it's so crazy. Of course, it's all collective. We're
Yeah.
all moving through the same season at the same time. So I just love it. And then, okay, kind of coming back because I
Yeah.
do,
Come back.
this is
Yes.
where I really feel like it's the most benefit for someone is every single day, you'll
Yeah.
have your season, which right now we're earth,
Mhm.
and then the day we have a chakra. So
Yes.
that's how I'm really leaning into it. It's like, okay, I know I'm in this element overall, this
Mhm.
earth element. So for me, and you can speak about it to you, but we're both earth signs. So we embody earth so well because that's just who we are, but it can be hard for people to understand. It makes us, we have shadow sides to it too,
Yeah.
like it's not all good, but um it's all about being grounded and embodiment. That's how I really see it. I don't know if you have any other words for earth that really resonate for you.
Yeah, like rootedness, right? But the thing about this calendar is like, and I think the thing about our connection to like the elemental world is it's the same for all of us in the big picture, but I think like on an individual level, this is like our relationship to like reimagine what our relationship is to time and to these elements. And like maybe somebody doesn't want to do mantras in the morning or doesn't want to meditate or like
Right.
whatever it is that like lights you up and like whatever your curiosity is, this is like that's how I'm using it is like, okay, let's try these things on. Like what feels good for me in my body, like what resonates, what doesn't, like try on a bunch of different things. And like at the end of the day, that's what this is like trying to inspire for myself and for like anybody who wants to play along is like, let's deepen our connection to this world, right? We're so blessed. We have so much abundance here. And I think we are so caught up in like this material world, this like rat race, trying to like consume all we can and like, get our taxes paid and have our careers and have, all this stuff that like keeps us so busy that we like forget this like elemental connection to the world around us. Right. And so I don't know what it looks like for everybody else. I'm excited to share like the things that like resonate with me, and I'm hopeful that like people will share other things that resonate with them. I don't know how this is going to grow with like the people wanting to come in. I've had a lot of really beautiful people reach out, and so I'm excited to like interact with them this year. But yeah, I don't know what it's like for everybody else, and I know that like in Vedic philosophy, like the chakra systems, there was bijas that like worked with which are sounds. Maybe you can pull up that other little clip that I made for you. But yeah, there's like perfect. There we go. So if you think about activating one of these centers, these energetic centers in our bodies, you can use, right, these like sounds. Om is probably the most recognized one. It's like exactly, right? The universal pitch that everything sort of like vibrates with. But if we sort of incorporate these into our meditations, or there's some really beautiful mantras that I will share with you guys like throughout the process of this calendar that you can incorporate and really feel that like activation in those areas of the body. And even that in itself, there's so much to uncover because we have old stored energies and emotions and thoughts and like all these different things can start to like surface and like move through us, right? And so I think those experiences based on like our lineage, based on like our family dynamics, our friend dynamics, this is going to be different for every single person, so it's not a one size fits all, right? But
Yes.
um
Well,
so
I feel like I really built a relationship with the chakras while in Maui because of how Maui is the shape of a woman. And
yeah.
when you turn, if everyone should do this. I mean, I should just pull it up on the shared screen, but like Maui, and if you turn it, Maui is a woman. And then to really understand the root of like Hana and to go down to Hana and feel that root. And then the colors as you come up from the road to Hana, it's sacral. All this orange stuff starts popping up. And then the solar plexus. And you can, and then crossing over, you can feel your throat. Like it was just kind of this mind blowing experience. But these sounds are so easy to activate. So
Yeah.
Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam. And you can Google or Spotify
Yeah.
playlist third
Totally.
third eye chakra playlist. So today the
Yeah.
solar plexus, which I think is so about like our lemon juiciness, like how do we see ourselves? Are we willing to share who we are with the world? And how confident can we be with our creative expression, which is so Leo season as well? It's this ability for us to really understand our relationship with our ego and to build a healthy relationship with it so that we can share and express
Mhm.
ourselves. So it just is so beautiful to see, okay, instead of focusing on everything all the time and
Yeah.
seeing like this endless spiral of healing that has to be done, that I see so many people get trapped in. I got to fix this. I got to fix this. I should be better at this. Or they are so frustrated because they're trying to do everything that they quit all of it. And they don't want to touch any of it. So this is such a beautiful, simple engagement. So, and I also wanted to share this with you. I don't know if I just learned this, so I wanted to share in case you didn't know the human design chart that I obviously am so in love
Yeah.
with. Let me pull up really fast. This is just like a random chart, but in case someone does really love human design, the chakras are all intertwined with human design, and the solar plexus is when the heart center and the G center combine together. That's like a really nice way to explain your expression. So just like
Yeah. The
really,
gene keys too is another wild one that you can like dive down into as well, which
yes.
is I'm slowly like uncovering the gene keys, but it's
Yes.
it's pretty
Oh,
cool.
it's a never ending, ever and never ever ending. But okay,
Uh,
so
Okay, let's pull up that picture one more time, Em, of the lady meditating there with the chakras, because I want to show one thing here, and this is something that I pulled from the original 13 moon calendar. And that the way in which I first learned about this idea of like putting a chakra to a day was from the foundation of law of time. And they call the chakras actually, they call them like the seven radial plasmas. And the way that they describe them is there are these energy centers that are radiating in and throughout us, but also like in and out of the universe. So you and like of the planets, you can see this big like toritic field that like streams through us and then like out through the planet. Right. And so I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's such a beautiful image. I love that." Right? Because I use this like technique of like creating my own little like energetic bubble around myself throughout the day, whether that's like, when I'm working on somebody through massage, like kind of setting your own little like energetic bubble, or like just out in the world, you're like, okay, I want to like radiate love and like compassion and like really like interact with people in this like really open and vulnerable and fun way. But this was like next level with it because I was like, oh wow, and then if you look on the calendar, so you see that the chakras are in this alignment here, right? From like the crown chakra down. But when you get to the calendar, it's not in that same order, right? So the days of the week, it's actually this spiral every single day is this like spiral towards heart center, right? So we get to Thursday at the end of the week, and that's the heart right there, right? So
tomorrow.
yeah, so it's tomorrow, right? And so if we kind of think about that and like this is something that, with the last calendars I did, I was way more into like the wave spell aspect of it and I was way more into like tracking, this like bigger picture throughout the year, but this is something that this year I'm really excited to play around with because I love this idea of sort of like opening up these centers and really like connecting with these areas in our bodies and these intentions and mantras, but like doing it in this way where we're spiraling towards heart center and that same energy like we find this radiance in our own body that like ripples out into the universe, right? And so I just love that. That really like resonates with me for whatever reason.
It's
And so I
beautiful.
wanted to explain that just for a moment though, because if somebody sees like, okay, well the chakras are in this order, but on the calendar it's like not in order, that's what's happening there is this like energetic spiral towards heart center every day of the week.
Wow. And it's so beautiful what you said, the visual, because I think the other theme in my life is horses. And you just rode a horse yesterday. You're such a cowgirl. You're in
I'm
Montana.
the weekend. It's so exciting.
I want to go to the rodeo with you. Like turn me into a cowgirl. This is like
Okay.
new. And the horse and to the eye-opening of, you know, we know horses, everyone, you talk about horses, it's like horses, you know, and I really wanted to understand a little bit more about it. So I was researching, you know, our aura, and we know like a little bit about aura, but all of us have an energetic field. So like if we put our hands out here and here, you know, it's about that size, like that's kind of our aura. And when we quite literally, like in human design, let's say you're a hermit, you have a 2 in your chart, you cannot recharge unless you are completely out of someone's aura, which means you should probably be sleeping alone more than you realize. You know, there's like all these factors, but horses, it's like 6 times the size of us. You know, it's insane their energy field and what they can pick up and what they feel. And I think this is true for so many animals that haven't just been researched. You know, think about a whale, think about any
Right.
massive energy, this big beautiful energy. So, like for us, if our role is to heal self so that we can actively engage and co create with the world that we're currently living in, it is about this internal healing with understanding of how we relate to the external. But all of us have to go deep within to even be relevant in the external because it's just a mirror. So, to give
And
us the tool,
yeah. And we don't have to do it alone. Like we have each other, we have the support of community, we have like the wisdom of our ancestors that they've passed on, and we have fun modern day tools and technologies to track and like better understand. So it's like, I think if we take a playful approach to it, it's like it's kind of fun. We're like consciousness becoming conscious of itself, it's really cool.
right?
But we do have to work through some of these things that like aren't really like comfortable and like can like bring up a lot of emotions. And I think, if we can learn to like not attach to those emotions as like us, like, oh, this feeling of grief or this feeling like that I am this ego that like comes in and holds on to all this baggage. Like, if we can have like cultivate this like deep compassion and like self love for ourselves, then we can let this stuff like flow through us, right? And yeah, and then I think that like it becomes a little like less scary and a little bit like more playful. With that said, there's a lot of like hard stuff to work through, and we all have our own stuff that we have to do, but we have community to like lean on and support through that. So it's kind of this like little dance between like community and like self work. Community like play around in that.
So thank you for that perspective. That's so beautiful because it is true. It's so easy for us to just be like, this is me and my work, and this is what
Mhm.
I'm going through, and nobody understands. We're all going through the same shit, just in
Yeah,
different times, different spaces, different
yeah,
places. It's
totally.
so real. It's like so important. I'm so grateful you're in my life to
Yeah, I'm so grateful for you too. I love you so much, and you're gonna become a cowgirl, but a regenerative cowgirl. Okay, the old ways of cowgirling and cowboying are like, they're not the best. We're gonna like reinvent the rodeo.
did try to get into Yellowstone because I thought
Yeah.
maybe like, yeah, I'm like all into this cowgirl thing. Let's just watch
Yeah.
Yellowstone. And it really makes me feel so icky.
Watch 1883. That's the one. You'll
Like
find your spirit.
fun or more icky.
It's so good.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
so good. Yeah. It's like a cowgirl that's like riding across the prairie, like with Tim McGraw and Faith Hill as her mom and dad. Like it's so good. All the other ones, they're okay, but like that one, I'm like, this is the one. I love this. I love this series so much. It's so good.
1883.
Um,
Yeah, it's so interesting because I just, you know, right now none of them are, I think Cookie is writable, but
yeah.
I found the saddle yesterday. So anytime you come, we'll find a
Okay.
book, make it happen.
Won-
But
Wonderful.
Rio and Princessa are not at, I mean, they've never been ridden. I saw Griot get ridden once by Jose, who was the original owner, and it was so funny because I've never seen a horse get ridden for the first time on
Yeah.
back, and it was just the cutest thing I've ever seen. And I was like, yeah, I'm doing this. This is it.
I think I think that's why I'm still a farmer in 2024, because obviously it's like not an easy thing to be, but because I was raised as like a cowgirl, and so every time I got bucked off more times than I can even count, and like every time right after you get bucked off, like put you back on, like put you back on, So I feel like I kind of like come back to that in farming scene. I'm like, okay, that's probably why I haven't quit yet. It's because of the rodeo roots. So thanks, Dad. I appreciate you.
So good. Well,
Uh,
if you haven't listened to Winsome, go to the La Kahea podcast. That's a former podcast we did with her and her two partners in the farming world. And we really talk about regenerative farming and what that means and how important it is. But also, how do they get this calendar? So I know you have an Instagram for the calendar and your own. So maybe we start with that. And then if they want you to send the calendar, no matter when they're listening, how do they access that?
Yeah, so, essentially, I think the easiest way right now is just gonna be to send me a little, message on Instagram with your email address. So just send your email address over, and then I can just share with you the little PDF printable version, and, yeah, use that however you'd like. Print it off. I laminated mine so that I could, like, write on and just use, like, every month, like, use it as a normal calendar. Um if you wanna just keep it digital on your phone, use it as your background, like, whatever. I don't know how everyone's gonna interact with that. I'm still kind of, like, trying it on for sizes for myself as well, but yeah, and then, the calendar Instagram is just the 13 moon calendar, so you can find it there, and ask questions, share things that are working with you guys, inspirational things, and yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for your inspiration and encouragement to share this with a bigger audience. I'm excited to see what comes of it.
Well, I think, it kind of comes down to not to get too into it, but like,
Yeah,
we know we need to change. Like, the way the world is just in such resistance with itself. And it shouldn't be that way. That's only because of our own doing and our own identity and constructs and opinions of what the world should look like, right? So there's an unraveling happening and it looks like chaos. So in this chaos, when we're looking at, well, what is our role? I just feel like just as if someone who completely changed their diet and their food and got the nutrients they needed to actually be able to be rooted and grounded and feel at home in their body and safe in their body. What if we also thought about that with time and the calendar? If the calendar can be something that's a container that allows us to just usher in and bring perspective to something that we never even thought possible, because we're not supposed to think it up before it happens. We're supposed to hold the vibration and we're supposed to hold the intention and we're supposed to be the channel, but we can't assume we know what's going to happen.
yeah.
So we have to really rethink time, and time
Mhm,
being what you said initially, for taxes, man-made, for money, for collection, for
mhm.
for
I think
this,
the saying was, "Time is money, and there's never enough time, and there's never enough money." Right? These
we have to get rid
like
of this
that.
because we lose, right, this, there's abundance everywhere and we have to learn how to see it and understand it and work with it, because if not, then we're all in lack and we're moving into a time where abundance can be reframed and
Yeah.
we each can generate that abundance for ourselves in a really powerful way. So I do think, it's just like, no, the world needs this, Winsome.
It's so cute. Yeah, and I mean, even more to your point, it's interesting just to like reflect back because I in like 2011 accidentally went to India and did a teacher training. And when I mean accidentally, I like applied for this scholarship and thought I was going to the Netherlands and like ended up going to India with Brittany, one of my besties. And so I had this experience in India, which was absolutely insane. It was like yoga boot camp to the max, right? I'm a girl from Wyoming, grew up here, never really traveled, like get sent to the heart of India and like we're doing these mantras every morning, we're meditating, we're having no devices, like no, just like such this wild 3 hour and a half long yoga sessions per day and then doing all these like kriyas for a month long, right? And I remember at the end of that, I was sitting under this tree and I was like, I don't have any thoughts in my head. This is so weird. I was like, and I would like look over at some of the other people. I was like, "Are you guys thinking of anything?" And they're like, "No, my brain is just empty." And I was like, "Mine is too. This is the weirdest sensation." And we all were just like, "This is so cool." So like, and I was like, "Oh, I'd never teach yoga. I just want to like learn about it for myself." And kind of what you're saying, we like kind of open ourselves up for these experiences, and then like we're not sure what's going to unfold. And like, never thought it would be a farmer in India. I learned like their idea of like sort of creating the least amount of karma, right, is to like not eat animals, right? So you're a vegetarian diet. But I get back to the United States and I start to see Wyoming with this different set of eyes, and I'm like, whoa, we're like monocropping everything here, and we're tilling up the land, and we're spraying ungodly amounts of poison all over it. And like from a microbial standpoint, I was like, this is like mass murder, right? Like, what about our karma level there? And that like sent me to Hawaii to start learning about farming. And then like now we're circling back to like the calendar and like reintegrating the chakras. So it's kind of fun. And like nowhere are you gonna go to college and like find this like, 9 to 5 job that is this, right? So you have to like have some courage to like lean into these things that like really light you up. And sometimes they don't make sense to anybody else, and that's okay because it's your process and M's process, right? It's our process of figuring it out and playing into these things. And so yeah, have fun with it, and like don't throw all reality out all at once maybe, because we're still kind of like tethered to this. But yeah, I just wanted to sort of emphasize your point of just, like leaning in and trusting, and like it's okay to be unsure of like what's going to come and follow. But like I feel so lucky and blessed to have people like you and like Jake and Wit and Brittany, like some of my like closest friends in my life who like push me to like lean into these uncomfortable spaces and like listen to your heart and like follow your it's like amazing that we're able to live this life and be supported to do that. So I hope everyone finds that.
Yes. Okay. Well, let's get this
Okay.
podcast out there, Winsome. Thank you, everyone,
Woo!
for listening. I haven't been on a Meathead Hippie podcast in so long. Let us know what you think. And then let's go jump on an Instagram live. So if you guys want to watch this live, just go to my Instagram at Emily Schramm and we'll be talking a little bit more about it there.
Yay.
Yay.
All right, then.
Big
I'll see you on
see you there.
Instagram.
Okay.
Okay, bye.